This is the story of Hansel and Gretel. There's Hansel, he's the big brother, and there's his Gretel, the little sister. These are German names because this fairy tale came from Germany. And I'm going to tell this story to you with my finger puppets. These pictures came from a children's book that I had when I was little, and my brothers and sister and I must have used it so much that somehow the pages got ruined, and my mom was able to save the characters. And look at my other fingers that don't have characters yet. I will show you in just a minute the different characters in this book. I also have this book that has a picture of the house that Hansel and Gretel are going to find, and this old lady that comes out. Do we go into a house of people that we don't know? No, it's not safe. So we will find out what happens to Hansel and Gretel in this fairy tale. I have some other pictures I'm going to share with you during the story because a lot of people tell fairy tale stories in different ways. I'm going to tell you the original story, and you can act it out too. How can you do that? You can draw a picture of Hansel and Gretel, or let me show you these finger puppets that I found, and you can also print these off of the class website of Hansel and Gretel. My fingers didn't fit in the holes, but yours will fit in the holes. And here's a little example from the story. I'm so hungry and cold and I want to go home. It's okay, Gretel. I have a plan. So let's find out what happens in this story. So as you know, we have Hansel and Gretel. This is their father, and he was a woodcutter. That's what he did when he went to work, so that they could buy food for their family to take care of them. But you know what happened? Their mother had died one day. She got sick and died. And there's the family without their mother. They were very sad. And the father loved their children very much. And he decided to get married again. So he married this lady here who became their stepmother. But she was not nice to the children at all. And you know what? One day they didn't have very much food, but only soup and bread, and not very much of it at all. And she said to her husband, their father, "Let's take the children to the forest and leave them there." "No, we can't do that. I love my children." "Yes, we have to, or we will starve to death." "No, we can't do that." And you know what? Hansel heard them talking. So he went outside when they were sleeping, and he found a lot of pebbles, which are little tiny rocks that shine in the moonlight, and he put them into his pocket. And the next morning they get up and they go on a walk in the forest because they have a plan to leave their children. He doesn't want to do it though at all, but she insists that they do it. And so they leave and they walk into the forest, and they leave them there. And it's getting cold and dark, but guess what? I have this picture to show you. On the way, he had dropped pebbles as they were walking, and they didn't know that he did that, especially her, because she wanted to do this very much so, but he didn't want to do that. He loved his children. But the moonlight shone on the pebbles, and when it was dark, they were able to find their way back home. Look at that. And the father was so happy to see them again, but she was not happy. And she says, "I am going to take them back all by myself, so they will be lost and never have a way to come back." This time they did not have time to get any pebbles or anything to get ready. She says, "Here is a loaf of bread. This is your last thing to eat. So you better be careful and eat it wisely." And Hansel had another plan. As they were walking, he dropped pieces of the bread to make a trail again. But you know what happened? It was nighttime, and they were so dark. It was dark and they were so cold, and I'm looking for this picture to show you. Here they are. And you know what happened? the birds ate all the breadcrumbs, so they didn't have a way to get back home. So they curled up by a tree to go to sleep that night. They didn't know what they were going to do. The next morning, the sun came up, and as they were walking, they saw a cottage of food. They saw candy on it, and they went up to eat some of it. This tastes like chocolate. Oh, these candies are so delicious. I was so hungry. And all of a sudden, this old lady comes out. So I'm going to move the stepmother because I put up this old lady on my finger puppet. She comes out and she says, "My dear children, come on inside and I will give you some soup and something to eat." And they were very hungry, so they went inside because she was so nice to them. But then she had another plan. And you know what she did? Here's a picture. She said, let me find it. Let me get this picture ready for you. Here it is. Look at that old lady in that picture. Her plan was she wanted to eat the children. But she said, "You are too skinny. You must eat a lot of food to get fat. Fatten up so that I can eat you." So you know what? He locked Hansel into a cage. And then Gretel, she, the old lady, the mean old lady, told her she needed to do a lot of work and even feed Hansel every day so that he could get fat. Well, you know what? She was so old she couldn't see very well. And she had an idea this time. She said, "Here, Hansel," when she wasn't looking, she gave him a stick. "Here's a stick. When she tells you to hold out your finger, I want you to hold out the stick. And she will see that you're not fat enough yet, and she won't eat you yet. And we will figure out a way that we can escape alive and get back home." And so he said, okay. And every morning for a week, she went to the cage to feel his finger. And it was just a stick. But she didn't know. She said, "Hey, boy, you need to eat more food and get more fat so I can eat you." And it tricked her. So he still stayed alive. But she got very, very tired of waiting. And so one day, after a week was over, she told Gretel to open up the oven and see if it is hot enough so she could eat Hansel, her brother. Oh, and she just was pretending, "I don't know how to open up that oven. Will you show me?" And so the old lady opened up the oven, and here's a picture of the oven being opened up. Look at that. And Gretel pushed the old lady into the fiery oven and shut the door. And then she was able to unlock the cage and take Hansel out. And that was the end of the witch. And I did forget to show you. I did show you my other picture already, but that's where that one is to go. See all that candy and stuff? That yummy old stuff that they could eat. And they go back into the forest, and they're looking for their father, but they hear him in the distance. And he gets them, and they give each other a hug, and he says, "You know, while you were gone, the stepmother got sick and she died, and we will never have to be hungry, and we will never, I will never leave you again. I love you." And they all lived happily ever after. I hope you enjoyed the story and that you can act it out by yourself and have fun doing it. Bye-bye. See you next time.